You're now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show.
When I had Emma at 19 years of age, when I fell pregnant, I was working with someone who I was really good friends with, who was trying really hard for a baby and had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. And the guilt I felt that I was unexpectedly pregnant when there was someone I knew that wanted this so much. I felt the weight of that. And going through the pregnancy, she was really supportive. And I think I learned a lot from her. And with my parents, I had this kind of hard truths input. And with Tony and Denise, Emma's other grandparents, I had this real love input as well. So I'm 19, I've got this baby. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know. Oh, I swear a lot, by the way, guys. I feel a little bit lost in the world, and my priorities were all wrong. All wrong. I didn't have to think, because I had people that they were there ready.
Wow. I love that balance, though. It's like yin and yang, right? It's like you can't, I'm not saying you can't have all of one and not the other, but it's almost like a beautiful recipe when you have a bit of both, because it's not like you were going to do a bad job with Emma if you only went the hardship route, in the same way you would never have done a bad job if you went down the love route. But almost like having a bit of both made a really nice balance.
And like I said, I think maybe there was a little bit of this idea that less than average, maybe that almost served me in that moment, because for me to say I don't know what I'm doing was the right thing to do. And to allow people to show me the way, because, well, Christina doesn't know what she's doing. It kind of allowed me to be coachable. So yeah, it's we've never talked about this stuff.
I know, this is why I love the show. I just love the fact that I can have these conversations with you, because I just think this stuff needs to be heard, because I think there are so many mums out there that have had fantastic childhoods and want to create exactly the same thing and don't for their own kids. There are also parents that have had the most horrific childhoods and want to avoid that. So I think it's really nice to hear. I mean, I'm not a mum yet, but there is part of me where I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to be like my mum or my dad. And what if I'm like that? Will I do this? Because I think, to come back to my point, we're both much in the personal development space. So we've done a hell of a lot of work. Like we've shared our therapy stories. Let's be real, right? Yeah. Over many non-alcoholic glasses of wine. But we have really revealed it all. And I think sometimes I'm fearful that when you've done the work, you know the shit that you have been through, and you know the shit that was put on you. And I'm not saying like I love my parents. Neither of them intentionally screw me up. But every parent screws their kids up. That's part of life, right? It's part of our own growth. Was there ever part of you that you're a bit worried about, like, there's this baby that's relying on me and I don't want to screw it up?
No, but because I was probably quite emotionally disconnected, if I'm really honest, because of not growing up in a highly emotional family. I didn't know how to activate that part of my body. And like I said, although I got this example I could see in my in-laws, I got pregnant very quick into that relationship. So I'd only seen it for a small window of time. And so, yeah, I didn't look at, they tell the story, you look at your baby and like you have this flood of emotion and it's all amazing. And I kind of looked at this baby and was like, I think the epidural's just kicked in. It feels a bit weird down there. It's a yeah, it's a really weird thing. I I wouldn't have said I had any like postnatal depression or anything like that. But I don't think that I don't believe I connected in the same way I did with my second child. And I also think a big part of that is, there's almost 6 years between them. Being that little bit older, let's face it, 19 is not, people have kids younger, but it's still, you know, it's young to be having babies. And at that age, even 6 years later, and I was not in the world of personal development and that kind of stuff then, I just understood that the things worth having take work. Things like feeding, like breastfeeding. With Emma, I did it with both of them, but with Emma, I gave it way too easy. It's the whole experience of Emma as a baby. I looked externally more than trusting my intuition. With Isabella, I was way more into like, no, whatever I say goes.
I love that. And so you mentioned that's partly the age difference,
Yeah.
and within yourself, I mean, not within them. What was there anything else that shifted in your life at those points that you would say was a defining factor?
I don't think there's any one thing. There's not anything specific that sort of springs to mind. Like I said, at 19, I'd got this baby and I was in this relationship that I thought was going to last forever. It didn't. I've had a breakdown. Okay, so when I had the breakdown, Emma was about 3. And where I was living in this quaint chocolate box village in Oxfordshire, I was living in the hotel. I'd got sort of the manager's flat was where I lived. So when I called my boss something I won't say now for you, and like that all blew up, I was then homeless with a 3-year-old. And people that know me, like, I just take everything in my stride. Like honestly, there is so much personal stuff that I know that it's like there's it's you. I would be that boring person if I shared it all. It's like, oh my god, she's got a story for everything. But all these things happened, and so I just had to keep moving through to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. I remember standing in the co-op, and it's like I've got like 73p in my hand or something, change, and it's like tampons or fresh chicken that's on the reduced counter, and having to make those kinds of decisions.